joining our office hours where we'll be talking about Desk Connect and how to synchronize your data between Desk and Salesforce. So my name is Brian. I'm the onboarding and training specialist here at Desk, and I have here with me Kevin. Kevin, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself and kind of what you do here?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. My name is Kevin Purdell. I'm on the support team here at Desk, and I'll be going over a demo of the product and kind of the setup configuration. And in general, I help with customers get onboarded with Desk Connect.
All right, great. Thanks, Kevin. So before we begin, let's go over just a few housekeeping items. The training for today will be just about 30 to 40 minutes. Following that training, we'll actually have the Q&A time. So I encourage you guys to ask questions to the GoToWebinar questions panel, and we'll get those answered towards the end. We do have a small group here, so I do encourage you guys to ask your specific workflow questions or any questions you might have. The session is also being recorded, so if you can't stay with us for the entire time, we will send out the recording to you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and talk about Desk Connect. So first, let's begin by talking about what it is. Desk Connect is the full bidirectional sync between Desk and Salesforce. Now, by default, out of the box, Desk Connect is going to sync with the three main CRM objects between Desk and Salesforce, meaning the case, the contact, and the account. Now, we had an old integration with Salesforce that used a custom case object inside Salesforce, and now with Desk Connect, we now use the standard case object in Salesforce, complete out of the box. So now you can take care of all those canned reports that are already set up for you in Salesforce. Now, we don't only sync the case, contact, and account objects, but we also sync interactions into a case as well. So, for example, if you're reaching out to your customers and your customers are reaching out to you, those interactions are being captured in Desk, and we push those interactions to the case in Salesforce. So anyone looking at the case in Salesforce is going to be able to see the complete customer history and all the interactions that you had with the customer. Now that's great, but why is it important, and why do we want to connect sales and service? Well, there's a couple of main points, and it's about achieving that 360-degree view of a customer. It's about having a complete view from the customer history to all the interactions the customers had, to even information about sales opportunities that you've had. So from a sales perspective, we know that your sales team is going to be more effective if they have access to customer service cases. And that's one of the main features of Desk Connect, being able to connect your sales team that's living in Salesforce and customer service team that's living in Desk. So for example, your customer service team is creating cases in Desk and taking cases in Salesforce. And now when your sales team is looking at an opportunity and they're looking at the contact, they're able to see all the customer service history from that contact. So they're able to go into a sales deal and say, hey, I know you've had 7 open cases with us. We've solved the last 4, and the last 3 are in development. And ultimately, this is going to make your customers happier, and it's going to make the customers trust you more as a brand. And this is going to make your sales team more effective. And on the flip side, we know that your service team is going to have a better experience with customers if they have some sales data coming in. The salesperson can write a note or an internal case comment in Salesforce saying, hey, I talked to this customer and they're a little bit unhappy, just so you know before you reach out to the customer. Again, so ultimately it's about having that 360-degree view of the customer. So let's go ahead and talk about a few prerequisites that are needed to enable this amazing feature. Now, the first thing that's needed is that you need to be a Salesforce customer and have a Salesforce Professional Edition or above. In Salesforce, we want to make sure that the case priority pick list values have been added high, medium, and low. The other field in Salesforce that we're going to check is the case status. As a Salesforce system administrator, we need to go into setup and make sure that the case priority and the case status have the correct values. For status, that's going to be new, open, pending, resolved, and closed. Then on the debt side, we want to make sure that you're a professional plan or above as well, in addition to being a Salesforce professional plan or above. Now, next is object mapping. Remember that the 3 standard objects that were mapped are case, contact, and account. In Desk, we call Salesforce contacts customers, So any customer records that are created in the Desk application using Desk Connect, these will get synced over as your Salesforce contacts. In Desk, we call Salesforce account companies. So whenever you create a company in Desk, those will get synced over to Salesforce as accounts. Now for contacts, we actually use the email address as a unique identifier and also the phone number to match the contact record in Salesforce. For account, we use account name to match the record. Next, let's talk about Desk cases to Salesforce cases. We're able to create these and have them under the correct account and contact in Salesforce. And lastly here, we want to make sure in Salesforce that your standard case object is visible within your contact and your account layouts. So if you're using an install package integration, which we do offer, you'll notice that these cases are going to a custom object called Desk.com cases. Now, using Desk Connect, what we do is sync to the native case object that comes with Salesforce. So again, you as an administrator can run better reporting in Salesforce and create dashboards. Now let's talk about things to consider post-enablement. When we enable Desk Connect, only new cases, customers, and company records that are created or edited in either system will sync. So if you have any historical data, then all you have to do is, as an agent or administrator, initiate a bulk update. You don't necessarily have to change the status or any other fields, but once you open the case and edit, the system will be able to sync the case over to Salesforce. One more thing to note about the standard case object is that the cases get synced over the native case object. So within the related list in Salesforce, you want to make sure that this case object is visible. If not, then you'll need to contact the Salesforce administrator and edit the layout. Now for syncing time. Whenever you make any edits from Desk.com or create a case or customer, these updates will instantly get synced over to Salesforce. When making changes on the Salesforce side, it takes up to 5 minutes to appear within Desk. Next here, field mapping. What's great about Desk Connect is that we not only give the ability to bi-directionally sync information, but on top of that, you can also map fields. So if you have custom fields created in Salesforce, you have the ability to map those over to Desk. So your Desk agents have the ability to see that information as well. Now here are the standard field mapping per object. So when we enable Desk Connect for cases, we'll be able to map the status, priority, and subject and description without any additional setup. For contacts, it'll be the name, title, phone, and email. And for account, it's just the account name. Now these are the standard fields that will get automatically mapped once we enable Desk Connect. If you want to map your custom fields, here are the 4 data types that we have the ability to sync with, and those are text, pick list, checkbox, and date. Now our next point here is that the case numbers are not synced by default. Desk case numbers are different from Salesforce case numbers. So in order for your Salesforce representative to be able to log in and quickly see which Desk case is associated with the corresponding Salesforce case, we can achieve this with a custom field mapping. And if you'd like more information on creating that workflow, you can always reach out to our support team. Now, our last point here is that the Desk Connect integration does not count against your Salesforce API limit. So for those of you that are administrators that are always conscious about your API limits that come with your plan, luckily with Desk Connect, you don't have to worry about any of that. So those are the considerations pre and post enablement. What I'll do now is I'll hand it off to Kevin, and he'll actually walk you through just the actual steps on the Desk side and Salesforce side to set up Desk Connect. It's all yours, Kevin.
Thanks, Brian. All right, let me hop out of the PowerPoint here. All right, so when you log into Desk and you first want to set up Desk Connect, first we need to enable it. So we'll go into the admin and we'll go to settings, and then on the left here, there should be an option for Desk Connect. If you're a new customer, this Desk Connect option may not show up for you. If it doesn't, please reach out to the support team or your account executive, and we'll get that turned on for you. So to enable Desk Connect, all you need to do is click on Desk Connect, and mine's actually already turned on here, but what you'll need to do is it'll prompt you to look at a help article. You can just click through that, and then we're just going to turn it on here at the top right. So there's this on-off switch. This is the master controller for Desk Connect. And so when you turn this on for the first time, it's going to prompt you to log into Salesforce if you're not already, and then you're going to want to log in with the user that you're going to make that connection with. Now, usually this is going to be the system admin, a user with a system admin profile, and that's because usually that profile has the most permissions. So you want to use your admin account when setting up Desk Connect. All right, so now that we have Desk Connect on, we need to do some setup on the Salesforce side. So let's go over to Salesforce here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Setup. So click Setup at the top right. Sometimes it's underneath your name here. And then on the left, you'll see the different options. So in the quick find, just search for fields. And so what we're going to do is go through the case standard fields and make sure that they're set up as Brian was talking about before. So if you go to search for fields and then go to cases and fields, it will take you to the list of your fields. And the first one we're going to check is the status field. So you click on the name, and then we're going to look at the values. So Desk, by default, has the status values of new, open, pending, resolved. We also have closed and deleted. But we're just going to make sure that new, open, pending, and resolved are mappable here at first. So you want to have those in order for the integration to function properly. So make sure you have corresponding values on the Salesforce side. All right, so next we're going to check the priority field. So if you go back to case fields and click on the priority field, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to check and make sure that there are standard values that we can map to, which are usually high, medium, and low. So make sure you have at least those values in order for the mapping to work. All right, and so that is really kind of the main setup for on the field level, just to make sure that you have everything configured properly. Now, what you want to do is go into the case, any case really, and look at the details section, and just make sure that your status and priority fields are visible. And that just means that they're accessible by the integration. So that means that the integration can access those fields and can edit them, and then your syncing will work properly. All right, so that's pretty much it for the Salesforce setup as far as the standard fields. So now when you start, creating cases either on Desk or in Salesforce, those will sync over, and you'll get the standard fields syncing over into the proper fields. So now let's go back to Desk, and let's talk a little bit about the setup on the Desk side. So if you're looking at Desk Connect and then you're under Settings, you'll see that there are some options here. So at the top, you have Company, Customer, and Case. And these determine which cases actually sync from Desk to Salesforce and vice versa. You'll see here for Company, there is Salesforce to Desk and Desk to Salesforce. So if you turn these off, then the corresponding record will not sync in that direction. And so in order to save those, you have to click on Save. So now that I've turned that off, now new accounts created in Salesforce will not sync to Desk. And so we also have customer syncing and case syncing. So you have full control over which record types get synced and in which direction. Additionally, we have what are called conditions. And so conditions work a lot like our business rules in that the conditions must be met before the syncing is triggered. So let's say for cases from Desk to Salesforce, I want to only sync a subset of cases. So what I would do is I would go into the case section in the admin and go to cases, and we're going to create a custom field called sync to Salesforce. I already have one here. It's a list type field, and it just has the values of no and yes. And so by default, no is selected. And so we're going to use this to control whether or not the cases get synced to Salesforce. So if we go back to our settings here, and we can add an all condition, which means that it must, all the all conditions must be required. And what we're going to do is select our sync to Salesforce field, and I'm going to say is yes. And then from then on, all of the only cases that have that field set to yes will sync. And so with that sort of setup, you can fully control which cases get synced to Salesforce and vice versa. Okay, so the next section in Desk Connect is the field mapping section. So if you load this page, you we'll see another company, customer, and case tab at the top. And then within that, you'll see all of these Salesforce fields here on the left-hand side. And on the right, kind of in the middle here, is the desk field. So I don't have any mappable fields at the moment, but let's go check cases here. So here we have some custom, some fields from Salesforce, and then some options here on the right. So in order to illustrate this, I'm going to show you guys how to sync over the case ID from Desk to Salesforce. So the first thing you want to do is create a custom field on both sides. So if we go into Salesforce here, and we go back to Setup, and once again we search for fields, and we go to case field. This time we're going to create a custom field. So I already have one here created. It's a text type field with 255 characters, and I just called it desk case number. So it's pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to go back to Desk, and you can see here I'm going to go to Cases, Custom Fields, and I've already created a custom field called Desk Case Number, and it's just a regular text field. And so what these are going to do is they're just going to hold the information, and the workflow is going to work like this. In Desk, we're going to set the custom field to contain the Desk Case Number, and then Desk Connect is going to map and sync that field to the custom field on the Salesforce side. All right, so we have our custom fields, and now let's set up the mapping. So I have desk case number here. This is the Salesforce field. And then I'm going to select the desk field in the middle here. I'm going to select desk case number, and then I'm going to save. All right, so now all the mapping and syncing is set up. The last thing we're going to do is create a rule on the desk side to populate the case number into our custom field. So how we're going to do that is through a case created rule, and I already have one here. It's called set desk case number. You just go in here and click add rule and fill in the name, and then here's what it looks like. We don't have any conditions because this is being triggered by the created event, and we're going to have it run every time. And so the rule actions can be set desk case number, and it'll be different depending on what your custom field name is, but that's what mine's called. And then in the second box, this is what we call liquid, and liquid just pulls information from the case. So in this liquid variable, it's case.id, and that's the case number. Okay, so that's it. Now when I create a case in Desk, we can actually do that here. So if I go into the next-gen agent, and I'm going to create a new case here, and as soon as it's created, you can see here on the right side my custom field, the desk case number has populated into that field. So that should sync over automatically to Salesforce so that your agents can check that out. So this workflow is pretty common. Using custom fields is a great way to sync data between the two systems. We have another workflow that will, sync the case assigned agent over to Salesforce as well. And you can check that out. We have a walkthrough. You go to support.desk.com and look through our Desk Connect FAQ article. And I think that's pretty much all I have for now. Yep, I think that's it.
All right, thanks, Evan. So we'll go ahead and open up this time for Q&A. Again, this is a small group, so again, feel free to ask your questions. We have just about 10 to 15 minutes remaining. Let's start here. Oh, and I'm sorry. Make sure to type those into the GoToWebinar questions panel. Okay. First one here. Desk Connect is now enabled on our site, but how do I port my Salesforce cases over to Desk?
Great question. So the syncing between the systems is triggered by updates. And so essentially, if you want old cases to come to Desk, all you need to do is trigger them to update. And so you can do that with cases, contacts, or accounts. And what we suggest is just doing a bulk update. And that is usually done through the data loader in Salesforce. If you've never used the data loader, I would suggest reaching out to Salesforce support, and they can walk you through it. So essentially, you just export all the data. You can modify custom fields, and then re-upload all of those cases, and then they'll just sync right over, as long as Desk Connect is on.
Okay. Another question here. Can Desk utilize the Salesforce case number? I prefer not to have two numbers.
Well, unfortunately, both Desk and Salesforce have a unique case numbers that can't be modified. So, in Desk, they just start in order, and, as they're just created with the next number. And Salesforce, has a similar system, so we can't really set one to be equal to the other. And that's why we have the workflow to sync the case number over between the two systems. It's really the best option for now.
Okay. Looks like there's a workflow question here. I'd like to sync other custom fields, for example, designating which product line a case is about with Salesforce. I assume that's possible, but I don't quite see how I do that.
Well, it depends on what kind of field we have here. So if the custom field is one of the supported types like text or list or date, generally list is probably the most common. Then you can set up, I'll show you how to sync a list custom field here. So let's go into Salesforce and we'll go to our case fields. And let's see if I have one here already. Product. Let's see what that one looks like. Let's just create a new one. What was the field name again?
Let's see here. Designating which product line a case is about.
Okay. So we'll make a new pick list field here. And then we'll go to next. And we'll call it product line. One, two, three. All right. Perfect. We're going to make sure it's visible to everyone, or at least the profile that the user is using, which I'm system admin. And we're going to add it to all the layouts. Perfect. All right. And so now on the desk side, we're going to go back into our custom fields, so cases, custom fields, and we're going to create a field here, and we'll call it product line. And these don't have to match up exactly. Most of the time they do, but good practice to make them match. So let's add some values here. Product 1 and product 2 and product 3. Great. And so sometimes the field updates take a little bit to sync, but let's see if they come over here. So, okay. And so we're going to go back to Desk.Connect. So once again, it's under Settings, and then Desk.Connect on the left. Then we're going to go to Field Mapping. And we'll go to Case. And my field has not synced over yet. But we can use this, what's this one here? So let's see, we have the product field, and we're going to choose which field to map it to. So let's select the one we just created. And then what you'll see is the actual value. So on the left are the Salesforce field values. And we can just choose which ones to map them to here. And the rest will just be unmapped. And then we'll just save that. So now, when you set a case on either side to one of the mapped values, then it will sync over to the other side.
All right. Let's see, next question here. How this looks like it's not a Desk.Connect question, but that's okay. How do desk cases get generated from knowledge base articles? Is there a way to have those auto-push to Salesforce as soon as the comments questions come in from Desk knowledge base?
Well, so we have our public questions. Maybe that's what you're referring to. We have a channel that's public questions. Let's see here.
Yeah, and it looks like she was talking about the public question.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I don't think we sync those, but let me check here really quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't sync public questions, but if you want to shoot that question over to support, I can give you a definitive answer on that one.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on here. We use person accounts. We often get desk emails from customers who don't have a person account. Where will these records go? Will it automatically create a quote-unquote person account?
So when you're setting up Desk.Connect, I don't think I have person accounts set up on this particular instance, but when you set up the syncing here under the settings, there will be a default record type. And so you can set the default record type to be a person account. And so let's go check that out really quick. Okay. Support.desk.com is your best resource. And so we syncing with the person account. And so, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Setting up your syncing, there will be this option if you have person accounts, and it will say, have the default record type there, and you can select it. And that tells it which one to pick first. So if it's creating a new record, it will create a person account. And when it's looking for records to sync with, then it will pick those before a regular contact or account.
Okay, thanks. Looks like we do have one more question. Again, I encourage you guys to ask your questions, but this is the last one for now. I also want to run reports in Salesforce. Is there a way for me to run reports that include time to first response, time to first resolution, etc. in Salesforce using Desk.Connect?
Well, let's see here. So there's a couple ways to do that. So by default, your cases have, with Desk Connect, the cases are synced to the native case object. So if you're just doing reporting on cases, you'll be able to run those, based on just the regular object. Let's see here. So when you run the report, let's do that really quick. Let's create a new report. And let's find this report type. Okay. So I guess we need to talk a little bit about how interactions are synced. So when you create an email, it gets synced over to the case record. And if you're just using the default Salesforce setup, the emails will be synced to a task. And so this is kind of strange because it is the native way that Salesforce used to deal with case-related objects. It's kind of weird. So what we suggest you do is if you go into your setup and if you go to build and then customize, and if you go to cases, there's a setting in here called support settings. So let's look at that. So what these are is there a way to kind of turn the default Salesforce setup into something that's more customer service friendly. All right, and so if you go in here, under cases, go to email to case. And so what this setting does is it allows you to sync Desk emails to an email object that sits under the case. And so that's going to allow you to handle the cases like they were in Desk on the Salesforce side. So I actually have the feed view on here as well, but I can kind of show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's what the case looks like in Salesforce. And it's kind of complicated because there are several different case setups. But there's three main ones. Ones that just have tasks and activities, ones that have emails, and ones that have feed view. And so I have the feed view on, and so it'll just show you all the activities in order. I'm not sure if you can report on that in general, but you could always think over the time to first response in a custom field. So, sorry if that was confusing.
Yeah, and for any of these questions, if you do need some follow-up, feel free to email us at support@desk.com. We're more than happy to kind of take a look at the case individually and kind of walk you through it if needed. So yeah, let's check if there's any other questions here. Looks like there isn't, so we'll go ahead and wrap up today's webinar here. Thanks again for staying with us for the entire time. We will email out the recording to you guys. As always, as I just mentioned, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, support@desk.com. Also check out our knowledge base at support.desk.com. We can find a lot of great articles on Desk Connect, but also other setup items within Desk, and also check out our video support center that's on the same page. Thank you once again. Thank you, Kevin, for joining, and have a great day, everyone.